You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
The ultimate smoking gun. Trump officials just carped to a $7.5 B shakedown, based on an article by Terry H. Twardren. The federal budget as a red state reward system. A rare confession. The Trump administration has now done something unusually useful. It said the quiet part in court. According to the source reporting, federal officials acknowledged that $7.5 billion in clean energy cuts were made selectively, based solely on whether states voted for Kamala Harris in 2024. That is not budget discipline. That is political punishment dressed up as governance. Who actually holds power? The power is not in the rhetoric about waste or fraud. It sits with the White House, the Office of Management and Budget, and the appointees who can decide which states get paid and which are made to bleed. Russell Vought has been explicit about the ideology behind it. Wright repeated the false neutralization in testimony. Together, they represent a simple governing theory. Federal money belongs to the president's faction first, and to the country only if there is something left over. The lie of neutral administration. The administration's preferred alibi is bureaucratic camouflage. Say performance, say cost reduction, say anti-American, and you can make raw partisanship sound like procedure. But the court filing blows that apart. If the decision was not based on statutory, programmatic, or cost-related factors, then the supposedly technocratic justification was a fraud by another name. This is the deeper trick of the Trump operation. Treat deliberate punishment as administrative confusion. It is not confusion. It is a method. Blue states gay, red states are protected. The hypocrisy is almost comical, if the consequences were not so concrete. The source notes that grants were funded in Trump won states even when the Energy Department had recommended cancellation. Blue states are still expected to send in their taxes, tolerate the extraction, and swallow the insult. Red states, by contrast, are protected from the consequences of the same standards the administration pretends to apply everywhere else. Illinois is a clean example. The cancelled grants included $583 million that Governor J.B. Pritzker said would have lowered energy costs, strengthened grid reliability, and created energy jobs. That is the real loss, not an abstract score in a culture war, but material capacity stripped from the states that did not vote correctly in Trump's eyes. Congressional theater, real damage. The Democratic response in the source is blunt and correct. Patty Murray and Marcy Hector called the cuts an outright un-American weaponization of government. That is the right frame. The problem is not merely that Trump is rude about it. The problem is that he is using state power to sort Americans into patrons and targets. Meanwhile, the Republican attention machine keeps performing forensic outrage at the margins while ignoring the central crime. Jim Jordan's antics around perjury and questions nobody asked are not oversight. They are partisan stagecraft meant to distract from the fact that the executive branch is openly converting federal grants into loyalty tools. The pattern. This is the governing pattern of authoritarian politics in plain sight. The state is not being shrunk, it is being repurposed. The bureaucracy is not being cleaned up, it is being captured. The budget is not an instrument of shared national investment, but a cudgel for rewarding allies and punishing opponents. That is why this story matters beyond clean energy. When an administration decides that federal aid is conditional on political obedience, the republic stops functioning as a common project. It becomes a hostage system with a payroll. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to AlterNet for today's article. With the automated voice of Razak, thanks for listening.